Greetings, this is CmdrAleon, host of the Cosmic Eye Ashtar Command radio program, heard on NPR Pacifica affiliate WESU FM and WESUFM.org, Sunday mornings from 11:30 till 1, every Sunday. And on today we're recapping on Ashtar Command Global TV Network, Stan Fulham's book, and the book I have right in front of me, it's called Challenges of Change. And this is the book that presented the predictions for October 13th by Stanley Fulham and the Transcenders. The Transcenders are evidently ancient souls from other planets that have died, and these ancient souls predicted through a channel to Stan Fulham that there would be massive UFO sightings over principal cities around the world. Well, on October 13th, all over the world, people were wondering which cities these would be, and it ended up being places like Manhattan and San Francisco, and even in one of the major cities in Malaysia, and a few other places around the country. So what we have here is a massive sighting, a prediction that came true, and the city that actually ended up with the most sightings is Manhattan. Started around 9:30 a.m. in the morning, went through the early evening, and picked up on city webcams for the Midtown Manhattan webcams that were seen on earthcam.com, which I used to look at these. And they were also put on YouTube. Thank goodness that there were some people that actually took the webcam stuff and put it on YouTube so you can see these luminous objects on October 13th in the evening. Now, in terms of Stan Fulham, he is a retired World War II veteran. His credibility was on the line. He was also with NORAD for a period of time, and he was also a Royal Canadian Air Force officer. He also had a friend who no longer lives, who was a senior official in NORAD, who provided him with a great deal of information when he was alive regarding extraterrestrial intelligence. But in the end, Stan Fulham relied on the Transcenders for his initial information and the prediction that they gave about October 13th. Let's recap October 13th. At around 9:30 in the morning, according to some eyewitness reports on the ground from people that were there, and hundreds of people later on throughout the morning and day, massive sightings of UFO objects, unidentified flying objects, luminous objects, were seen over the skies, the clear blue skies of New York. Later in the day, the same time, and these objects were seen within 45-minute increments in the early part of the morning, according to some eyewitnesses. But later in the day, reports came from a middle school in Mount Vernon, New York, that they lost the helium balloons that were for a party for a teacher at their school. 24 hours later, the news, Good Morning America, and other local newscasters and papers in New York City changed the story and say that it was weather balloons. The mystery has been solved. Well, talk about a cover-up. The mystery was never solved because they lost a dozen balloons to 2 dozen balloons. And what also occurred was the day before, on the 13th, there were over 100 of these objects in the sky hovering for over 45 minutes straight over New York. Then in the evening, they posted on YouTube. If you look on YouTube, you'll find on October 13th in the evening that luminous objects were recorded on a city webcam for Midtown Manhattan. And thank goodness there are people that actually projected that stuff and recorded it and put it on YouTube so you can see that there was more events happening at night. Now, if there were a dozen to 2 dozen helium balloons, were they going to hang around all day and all evening in New York? Come on now. You know, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. So we went from actual news reporting on the first day of an actual event, recording actual unknown objects, to the news media falling asleep and accepting a report about these helium balloons being the mystery that has solved the mystery over New York. Then you had these conflicting reports of yellow balloons in the city, which some people put on video and showed on YouTube. These yellow balloons in clusters were in the city for some sort of a celebration tied to poles. And evidently some of these yellow balloons were let go and they went up in the air, and people thought these were the unknown UFOs that were being seen. But they mistaken them for UFOs, and they were really basically yellow balloons. The other balloons weren't even yellow. So you've got two conflicting reports, two discrepancies during October 13th. The truth is, what people were seeing on October the 13th is what they were seeing. Over 100 plus UFOs, luminous objects in the sky, and in the evening what was picked up naturally, just by natural chance, this Midtown webcam, which was facing towards the sky, picked up these other objects that were also in the sky. And they were moving around in odd ways. They were doing all kinds of weird stuff, and these weren't conventional craft. At around 6:45 p.m., the very same evening of October 13th, the report comes into the local news that air traffic controllers at three major airports, according to the reports, had to leave their traffic control places for the fact that there was a gas leak, according to the news reports. And that's why they had to evacuate everybody, because of the gas leak. Nothing can land. If you don't have traffic controllers on radar, how can you land any kind of jets to these commercial airports? So we had that going on. And that happened accordingly at the same time that these sightings were happening early in the evening in New York, through the middle of the evening. Was there a cover-up here? Was there actually a gas leak? Or was this just a story put on to divert attention from the events of the day that were going on regarding these UFOs? I believe, and have certainly come to the conclusion, doing the investigative work that a journalist does, not just having an opinion, but doing investigative work that one would do in terms of the circumstances of these events, that not only did this event come true as predicted, but the people of New York that looked up in the sky didn't just see balloons, a dozen balloons, didn't just see yellow balloons, but they saw unknown objects, UFOs, unidentified flying objects that were luminous, that were there for at least 45 minutes to an hour or more, that would blink out, which balloons do not do, blink out and then blink back in, which balloons do not do. And if there's any balloon that can blink out and blink in to the atmosphere, please show me that balloon. So we have a story here that is incredible, a story that was predicted, and we've gotten weary of predictions because many people predict a lot of things. We had the Blossom Goodchild thing 2 years ago, which did not happen, when she said this massive spaceship was going to come to Earth and we'd all see it. Never happened. We never had that happen. It never did exist in terms of the actual realities of the experience that people were waiting for. So people had a right to be leery and certainly skeptical of any future predictions. Now this gentleman here, a World War II veteran, a person who, with his own integrity on the line, took information from a channeled source, which is unusual for an Air Force personnel to do, but he actually did take it from this channeled source, these transcenders, that they said the Palladians were going to be the ones that would be coming over principal cities. Well, was it the Palladians that were over New York that day on the 13th and into the evening of the 13th, showing their vessels? They did not make any contact with physical human beings. They did not put on a verbal communication to our government, but there was certainly a visual display, a massive display of these UFOs, these luminous objects, over New York that very day and evening. So, in my conclusion of the events from the book Challenges of Change by Stanley Fulham, the World War II veteran, I believe not only the story is now credible, I believe that he was accurate in his predictions. He also said that the transcenders had changed the plans a bit, and they stated that only in New York would these sightings occur. They did not want to scare the world population. If they had massive sightings in all the cities, major cities of the world, I would think Beijing, I would think Paris, I would think London, Stockholm, Sweden. Principal cities are the main cities of various countries. And there were sightings in San Francisco and also in Malaysia and a few other areas that actually had similar objects appear out of nowhere. So we do have a situation where New York was the center, evidently, that they chose for these sightings to occur. It's a cultural hub, it's an intellectual hub, it's the center of communications and mass media. Why not New York? And it makes perfect sense from a media standpoint, and from my background in journalism, it certainly makes a perfectly good sense that New York was chosen. Now, did people freak out on the ground when they were seeing these objects in the sky? No. The opposite effect occurred. People were curious. They wanted to know more. So this whole thing about how people are going to be afraid and jump out of the windows and, the big negative aliens are coming to take you away, that's all Hollywood garbage. It's Hollywood myth. Nobody came here and took anybody away. Nobody abducted anybody, no War of the Worlds, nothing like that. What we're talking about is a reality check here, folks. What we're talking about here is the appearance of UFOs, potentially from the Palladians, that were hovering around New York for hours upon hours, and people actually documented it on video, on their webcams, and they also documented it on their cell phones and took photographs. So we know that the event occurred. Now, when people post things around the web saying nothing happened, then I have a feeling those people were not actually looking at what was going on the day of the 13th. And maybe they weren't focusing on the right places to find the information. But if they had been focusing on the information, they would have known that it did happen because the major media picked it up on the 13th, the morning of the 13th, the day of the 13th, and the day after. Good Morning America, regardless of the fact that they changed the story 24 hours later, was talking about the UFOs over New York. So how could anybody say that nothing happened? You had to be playing video games or not paying attention to what was going on that day. So with that stated, we're going to end this particular broadcast and just tell you that we want to thank you for tuning in to Ashtar Command Global TV Network. And again, this book by Stanley A. Fulham, Challenges, and I'm going to put it right here, Challenges of Change, really does, at least part of the prediction end of it, came true with what the Transcenders said to him. I also want to say that Stanley Fulham, because of his prediction coming true, is coming back on the Cosmic Eye on this weekend, Sunday, October the 24th at 11:30. We'll have him exclusively on WESU's The Cosmic Eye. I'll be interviewing him and asking him about future predictions and events to take place with the Palladians and other extraterrestrial civilizations, according to his information from the Transcenders through the channeled information he's been getting and any other information he might have since then. So tune in on Sunday morning for a live broadcast, and with our guest by phone, Stanley Fulham, retired Royal Air Force, Canadian Air Force officer, and with NORAD, World War II veteran. He'll be on the Cosmic Eye, and we'll see you on Sunday morning with Stan, and we hope to get new information provided to the world with Stan Fulham on WESU's The Cosmic Eye then. This is CmdrAleon, and this is just a brief outlook of what occurred on Sunday, recapping Sunday the 13th. We hope you tune in and keep tuned and keep your eyes to the skies.